My wife became a doctor and celebrated by filing for divorce that same day. I signed without argument and disappeared completely. 8 years. That's how long I spent building someone else's dream while mine sat untouched in a corner. 8 years of working double shifts so she could afford medical school. 8 years of frozen dinners because she was always studying. 8 years of canceled vacations because there was always another exam, another rotation, another reason. 8 years of being reassured, once I graduate, everything will be different. Her graduation ceremony was on a Thursday in May. I took the day off from work just to be there. I even bought a new shirt. I really believed this would be our moment, our shared victory, our future finally beginning. I sat in that crowded auditorium and watched Elena walk across the stage. When they called her name, I stood and clapped harder than anyone. I thought all the sacrifices were finally paying off. I truly did. After the ceremony, families were celebrating, taking pictures, making dinner plans. I waited by the car while she posed with her classmates, holding her diploma like it was a winning lottery ticket. When she finally came over, I expected at least a hug or a smile. Maybe a simple thank you. Instead, she handed me a manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Divorce papers," she said. So casually, it felt unreal. I already signed my part. I stared at her first, then at the envelope. She wasn't joking. There was nothing in her eyes. No guilt. No hesitation. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious," she replied. "Look, I don't need you anymore. I have my degree. I have job offers. I have a future. You were helpful during school, but that chapter of my life is over." Helpful. That's what 8 years boiled down to. Helpful. Like I'd been some kind of financial aid program in human form. So what was I? I asked quietly. "Your subsidy?" She shrugged. "You knew what you were signing up for. I told you from day one. Medical school came first. Now I'm a doctor and I want to start fresh. No dead weight. Dead weight." That's what 8 years of marriage translated into. Her colleagues hovered nearby, watching us. Some of them I recognized. They all knew I was a husband who worked overtime to help pay for her tuition. I opened the envelope and skimmed the papers. Everything was pre-filled, assets divided, the car she wanted, the apartment she listed as solely hers because she'd be making doctor money soon. I was getting the legal bare minimum. "You've really thought this through," I said. "I'm not stupid. I know what I want," she replied. I looked from her classmates, to nearby families celebrating, to the woman I had supported with everything I had. And then, without a word, I reached into my jacket, pulled out a pen, and signed every page. Right there in the parking lot, with the same cold efficiency she'd shown me. I handed the papers back. "Congratulations on your graduation and your divorce." Her mouth fell open. She clearly expected tears, an argument, maybe a dramatic scene. What she got was acceptance. "That's it," she asked. "You're not going to fight this? You're not even going to try to talk me out of it?" Why would I fight for someone who just called me dead weight? I turned and walked away. No shouting. No looking back. No second guessing. I simply walked out of that parking lot and out of her life. Right as I rounded the corner, I heard one of her classmates ask, "Who was that guy? And why did he just walk away from his own car?" I kept walking. She wanted a fresh start without dead weight? Perfect. She was about to learn exactly what kind of weight I'd been carrying for years. 3 days after the parking lot incident, I was gone, not just from the apartment, but from the entire state. While she might have expected me to come crawling back with flowers, apologies, or explanations, I was busy disappearing. The thing about being married to someone who never paid attention to finances is that they never know what you actually control. She thought the apartment was hers because she'd be making doctor money. What she didn't know was that I had been paying the rent for my personal account for 2 years. The lease was in my name only. During those 3 days, I liquidated everything that mattered, closed our joint accounts, and moved my half to a bank she'd never heard of, canceled the utilities, my name, my accounts, transferred my phone number, shut down the Netflix account she binge-watched every weekend. By Saturday morning, everything I valued was in my pickup truck: clothes, tools, my grandmother's china, which she never appreciated, and my vintage records, which she always hated. I chose Portland, Oregon for one reason. I had no connections there. A clean slate. My new apartment wasn't luxurious. One bedroom, a parking lot view, instead of the skyline she always dreamed of. But it was mine, fully mine. Finding a job took less than a week. Construction management for a medium-sized commercial company. Good pay, reasonable hours, and nobody asked personal questions. Meanwhile, in our old city, reality finally introduced itself to her. The first sign she noticed? Rent day. Apparently, landlords don't accept "I'm going to be a doctor" as payment. Then, the power shut off. Then, the internet. That's when she realized I hadn't been dead weight. I had been the foundation. Her text messages came during week 1. "We need to talk. This is ridiculous. You can't just disappear." I saw them pop up and deleted them without opening. Week 2, 27 calls in a single day. Deleted every voicemail without listening. Week 3, she showed up at my old job, frantic. My former supervisor warned me, and I told him the truth. I don't have a wife. Month 2, she tried to use me as a reference for an apartment application. My old number didn't exist anymore. She contacted my family, my friends, even an old roommate. Every one of them got the same message from me: "I don't know anyone by that name." Month 3, she tracked down my new employer, claiming a family emergency. My boss passed along the message. I told him the truth. I have no family by that name. He understood and blocked her number. Meanwhile, I was building a new life. Portland turned out to be exactly what I needed. Better coffee. People who minded their own business. No one asking me to sacrifice myself for their future. I joined a weekly hiking group. Took evening project management classes. Started dating. Nothing serious, just rediscovering myself. I even met a woman at a bookstore coffee shop. She paid for her own meals, had her own ambitions, and actually cared what I thought. When I told her I was recently divorced, she simply said, "Good for you for knowing when to walk away." No drama. No guilt. Just acceptance. By month 6, I stopped checking for messages from Elena. My life had no connection to hers anymore. Wake up at 6. Coffee and news. Work from 7 to 4. Hiking, gym, friends, reading. Simple. Peaceful. Mine. She loved talking about her fresh start. But I was the one actually living it. No dead weight. No resentment. No one using my life as a stepping stool. She got her clean slate, and she got an empty space where I used to be. 3 years into my Portland life, I was happier than I'd ever been in 8 years of marriage. And 3 years into her medical career, Elena learned that life has a dark sense of humor. A mutual acquaintance eventually filled me in. Her fresh start hadn't unfolded the way she imagined. Being a brand new doctor didn't mean instant wealth. Her residency salary was barely more than what I made in construction, and she now had 6-figure student loan debt attached to her name. Debt she once covered by needing my signature. That apartment she insisted she'd keep? A financial disaster within 6 months. Without my income, she burned through her savings before her first residency check even arrived. She ended up taking 2 roommates who weren't thrilled when they learned she dumped the husband who funded her education and now expected others to help cover her doctor lifestyle. Her work schedule? Hell. 80-hour weeks, overnights, constant call shifts. No freedom. No glamorous, new single life. Just exhaustion, cafeteria food, and energy drinks. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Promoted to senior project manager. Great salary. Leading major commercial builds in Portland. Bought a small house. Nothing extravagant, just mine. No shared finances. No shared obligations. Just peace. No asking permission for purchases. The hiking group had become a core part of my social circle. Every weekend, rain or shine, we explored different trails around Oregon and Washington. I was in the best shape of my life, had a solid group of friends, and felt genuinely content for the first time in years. The graphic designer I'd met at the bookstore had become something more serious. We'd been together for over a year, taking things slow and steady. She appreciated that I wasn't rushing into anything given my recent divorce. What she didn't know was how refreshing it was to be with someone who contributed equally to our relationship instead of treating me like a financial support system. She had her own house, her own car, her own savings account. When we went out to dinner, she insisted on splitting the bill. When I cooked dinner at my place, she brought wine and dessert. When she cooked at hers, I handled cleanup and brought flowers. Everything felt balanced and reciprocal. But back to Elena's situation. The breaking point for her apparently came during her second year of residency. She'd been working a particularly brutal schedule when her car broke down. Major engine problems that would cost more to fix than the car was worth. In the past, this would have been my problem to solve. I'd have figured out the financing, negotiated with mechanics, maybe even borrowed money from family if necessary. Now, she was facing it alone with maxed out credit cards and no savings. She ended up taking public transportation for 3 months before finally qualifying for a loan on a used car with payments that ate up a significant chunk of her already tight budget. The whole experience apparently triggered some kind of awakening about what she'd lost when she discarded her dead weight. That's when the real searching began. First, she tried social media, but I deleted all my old accounts and never created new ones under my real name. Then, she contacted every mutual friend we'd had, but most of them had chosen sides after the divorce, and her side wasn't winning. She hired a private investigator after 2 years of failed searching, even paid him a $1,000 retainer from money she couldn't afford to spend. He found old addresses, previous employers, even tracked down family members who wouldn't tell him anything useful. The breakthrough came when she abused her access to medical databases during her 3rd year of residency. She'd somehow gotten the idea to search hospital employment records across multiple states, looking for my name in construction-related job descriptions. Apparently, she figured I'd eventually need medical care somewhere, and if I kept the same type of job, she might find a trail. It was a long shot that shouldn't have worked, but it did. A routine physical I'd gotten through my employer's health insurance program had created a record that showed up in her search. The hospital was in Portland, Oregon, and the employment listed was with a major construction firm. She'd found me. After 3 years of searching, she finally had a general location and enough information to track me down completely. What she didn't know was that the man she was looking for had evolved far beyond the person she discarded in that graduation parking lot. I wasn't the same guy who'd worked double shifts to pay her tuition. I wasn't the same man who'd accepted being called dead weight and helpful. I was someone who'd built an entirely new life without her in it. Someone who'd proven that her assessment of my value had been completely wrong. Someone who'd moved on so completely that her name rarely crossed my mind anymore. She was about to discover that when you throw away something valuable, you don't get to decide 3 years later that you want it back. The call started on a Tuesday morning in March. My phone showed 17 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. Then the texts began flooding in. I know you're getting these messages. We need to talk about what happened. I made a mistake and I want to fix it. Please just call me back. I deleted each message without reading past the preview. After 3 years of complete silence, I wasn't interested in whatever crisis had suddenly made her remember my existence. The calls continued for 2 weeks. Different numbers now, probably borrowed phones from colleagues or friends. I blocked each one as soon as I identified the pattern. 17 calls Tuesday, 23 on Wednesday, 31 on Thursday. She was escalating, getting more desperate with each day of silence. Then she got creative. My work phone rang on a Friday afternoon. I was on site reviewing blueprints when the receptionist from our main office called. Hey, there's a woman here claiming to be your wife. Says there's a family emergency and she needs to speak with you immediately. What does she look like? The receptionist described her perfectly. Elena had somehow found my employer and driven to Portland. She was sitting in our lobby right now, probably spinning some story about urgent medical news or family crisis. Tell her you couldn't reach me and that I'm out of state on a project for the next 2 weeks. Take her contact information and let her know someone will call her back. Got it. Should I actually call her back? No. An hour later, my supervisor called with an update. She'd waited in the lobby for 3 hours, asking repeatedly if I'd returned any calls or shown up at different job sites. When it became clear I wasn't coming, she'd left her number in a handwritten note. What did the note say? Something about how you two need to discuss your future together. She seemed pretty upset when she realized we weren't going to help her track you down. Thanks for handling that professionally. No problem. We get crazy ex-wives sometimes. I'll flag her information in case she comes back. She didn't come back to the office, but she found other ways to make her presence known. She'd apparently spent the weekend driving around Portland looking for my truck in apartment complexes and restaurant parking lots. One of my hiking buddies called Sunday evening to let me know a woman matching her description had approached him at a coffee shop, claiming to be looking for her arranged husband and showing him a photo on her phone. Dude, I didn't tell her anything, but she seemed really determined. Said she'd been searching for 3 years. Thanks for the heads up. If she approaches you again, you've never heard of me. Copy that. Monday brought a new strategy. She'd figured out that I lived somewhere in Portland and decided to blanket the city with her search. She posted on neighborhood Facebook groups, Nextdoor apps, even Craigslist misconnections, all with the same basic message: looking for my husband. We lost touch after my medical residency. Please help me reconnect. My graphic designer girlfriend showed me one of the posts Tuesday evening. We were cooking dinner at my place when she pulled up Facebook on her phone. This is weird. Some woman is posting in all the Portland groups looking for her husband. She's using a photo that looks like it was taken years ago, and the whole thing sounds desperate. I looked at the post. Sure enough, it was a photo of me from our marriage, probably taken during some dinner out that I'd forgotten about. The caption read like something from a missed connections ad, full of regret and promises to make things right. Sounds like someone who doesn't understand that some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned. My girlfriend nodded. The comments are pretty brutal. Most people are telling her that if her husband wanted to be found, he wouldn't have disappeared so thoroughly. She was right. The comment section was filled with people pointing out the obvious. Men don't vanish completely unless they have very good reasons. Several women shared their own stories about ex-husbands who'd gone no contact, and the consensus was clear. This level of avoidance meant serious damage had been done. Wednesday brought the most desperate move yet. She somehow got my address. I came home from work to find her sitting in her car outside my house. She'd been there long enough to attract attention from neighbors because Mrs. Chun from across the street flagged me down as I pulled into my driveway. That woman has been parked there since noon, asking everyone who walks by if they know you. I told her, I've never seen you before in my life. Thanks. If she approaches you again, please feel free to call the police about suspicious behavior. I parked in my garage and entered through the side door, avoiding any contact with her car. She knew I was home now, which meant the real confrontation was coming. The doorbell started ringing around 7 p.m., continuous, aggressive rings that went on for 2 minutes at a time. Then knocking. Then more ringing. I ignored all of it, continuing with my normal evening routine of dinner and reading. Around 9 p.m., she started yelling through the door. I know you're in there. I saw your truck in the garage. We need to talk about this like adults. I drove 16 hours to get here. I'm not leaving until you at least listen to me. The neighbors were definitely getting a show. I could see porch lights coming on up and down the street, people probably wondering what kind of drama was unfolding in their usually quiet block. I called the police non-emergency line. I'd like to report someone trespassing and disturbing the peace at my residence. It's my ex-wife, and she's been here for several hours, refusing to leave. The officer who arrived 20 minutes later was professional and efficient. I watched through the window as he spoke with her for about 10 minutes. She was animated, gesturing toward my house, probably explaining her 3-year search and her desperate need to reconnect. He knocked on my door, and I answered. Sir, the woman claims to be your ex-wife and says she needs to discuss important matters with you. Are you willing to speak with her? No. We've been divorced for 3 years, and I have no interest in any communication with her. I'd like her removed from my property. Understood. I'll escort her off the premises and explain that she needs to leave you alone. Through the window, I watched him walk back to her car and have another conversation. This one was clearly firmer because she got in her car and drove away without looking back at my house. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number 5 minutes later. The police can't stop me from loving you. I'll wait as long as it takes. I screenshotted the message and added it to the file I'd started keeping. If this escalated further, I wanted documentation of everything. 3 years of silence, followed by 2 weeks of desperation. She'd found me, but she was about to learn that finding someone and reconnecting with them are two completely different things. She cornered me at Home Depot on a Saturday afternoon. I was loading lumber into my truck for a deck project when I heard her voice behind me. Please don't walk away. Just give me 5 minutes. I turned around to find her standing 10 feet away, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She was thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes, and that frantic energy of someone running on pure desperation. 5 minutes for what? To apologize. To explain. To ask for another chance. I closed the tailgate and faced her completely. You had 8 years of chances. You used them all up in a parking lot 3 years ago. She blinked hard, like the words physically hit her. I was stressed, she said quietly. Medical school was overwhelming, and I said things I didn't mean. I've regretted it every single day since. Which part do you regret? I asked. Calling me dead weight, or discovering the dead weight was actually keeping your life afloat. She flinched. The truth usually lands like that. I never should have said those things, she whispered. I was scared about starting my career, and I thought I needed to be completely independent to prove I could make it as a doctor. How's that working out for you? I asked. Her jaw tightened. It's been harder than I expected. The hours, the money, everything. I realize now that I gave up the best thing in my life for a career that's not what I thought it would be. I leaned back against my truck and folded my arms. So let me understand this. When you thought you were going to be wealthy and successful, you threw me away like garbage. And now that real life hit. Now that you're struggling, suddenly I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. That's not how it was, she whispered. That's exactly how it was, I said. You said so yourself. You didn't need me anymore. I was helpful during school, but that chapter was over. Remember? She dropped her gaze. I was wrong. Yes, I said. You were wrong about a lot of things. I know I hurt you, she said, stepping closer, tears already gathering. But we can fix this. We had something good before medical school took over everything. We can have that again. I almost laughed. We never had anything good. I had 8 years of being your personal support system while you chased your dream. You had 8 years of free financial and emotional labor while you figured out your career. Those are two completely different relationships. That's not fair, she said weakly. Fair. I repeated. You want to talk about fair? Here's what's been fair. You got exactly what you asked for, a fresh start with no dead weight. I got exactly what I deserved after 8 years of being taken for granted, a life where I'm valued. I value you, she said quickly. I always valued you. You valued what I provided, I said. There's a difference. She stepped closer again, tears spilling. I love you. I've always loved you. I just got confused about priorities. No, I said softly. You didn't get confused. You got honest. For the first time in 8 years, you told me exactly what you thought of me. The only thing that's changed is your circumstances. People change, she said. I've changed. Have you? I asked. Or are you just desperate because being an adult is harder than you expected? She didn't answer. Silence said enough. Then she tried again. What can I do to prove that I'm different now? Nothing, I said. Because I'm different now, too. What do you mean? I'm not the same man you discarded 3 years ago. The guy who worked double shifts to pay your bills, he's gone. The guy who accepted being called dead weight and helpful, he doesn't exist anymore. You're talking to someone completely different. I don't believe that, she said. People don't just become different people. Sure they do, I said. especially when they're forced to rebuild their entire life from scratch. Want to know what I've learned in the past 3 years? She nodded. I learned that I'm actually pretty good company when I'm not constantly worried about someone else's stress levels. I learned I have interests and hobbies that don't revolve around medical school schedules. I learned what it feels like to have conversations that don't end with someone complaining about professors or rotations or board exams. Her face reddened with each sentence. I learned that when you date someone who has her own career and her own money, relationships become partnerships instead of charity cases. I learned that mutual respect is possible when both people contribute equally. Her eyes widened. You're dating someone. I'm engaged to someone. The words crushed her. She actually stepped back and held a hand to her chest. Engaged? 3 months ago, I said. We're getting married in September. But we're still married, she whispered. No, I said. We're not. You divorced me, remember? Signed papers and everything. Very efficiently handled, actually. I mean, we could still, if you wanted to try again. I don't want to try again, I said. I want to move forward with someone who chose me when she had options, not someone who only wants me back because her other options didn't work out. She was crying openly now. This isn't how this was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? I asked. You were supposed to show up after 3 years, apologize for treating me like garbage, and I was supposed to gratefully accept you back into my life. Yes, she said, breath shaking. I don't know. I just thought if I could find you and explain. You thought I'd be sitting around waiting for you to realize your mistake, I said. Like I was just on pause until you decided you needed me again. She didn't deny it. She didn't have to. It was written all over her face. Here's what you never understood about me, I said. I don't wait around for people to figure out my value. When you threw me away, I took you at your word and moved on completely. The man you're looking for has remarried someone who appreciates him from day one. I could appreciate you now, she whispered. Too late, I said. Someone else already does. I opened my truck door and got in. She stood there, hoping I'd change my mind. I rolled the window down one last time. Next time you find something valuable, I said, don't throw it away because you think you found something better. Most people only get one chance to make that mistake. I drove away. She stayed standing there in the Home Depot parking lot with the same expression she'd had 3 years ago when I signed the divorce papers. Except this time, she finally understood what she'd lost. 2 weeks later, she tried one last move. She showed up at my job again. New lie this time. She told the receptionist she was a doctor with urgent medical information about my health. My supervisor called me into his office. Your ex is back. She's claiming medical emergency. Should I call security? Actually, I said, let me handle this personally. I walked to the lobby. She was sitting there in scrubs, exhausted, like she'd been running on caffeine and regret. Medical emergency? I asked. I needed to see you, she said. And I thought. You thought impersonating a doctor with urgent health information was the appropriate way to do that. I cut in. I am a doctor, she whispered. And you're also a liar, I said. There's no medical emergency, is there? She shook her head, tears forming again. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm going to give you 2 things, and then this ends forever. I pulled an envelope from my jacket. First, this is a restraining order. Any further contact, direct or indirect, becomes a legal matter. That includes showing up at my work, my home, contacting my friends, or creating fake emergencies. Her hands trembled as she took it. Second, this is for you. I handed her our wedding invitation. My name and my fiancé's name printed in elegant script. September. Portland. The life she had no place in. I want you to understand, I said, that I'm not just moving on. I've already moved on completely. The life I'm building has nothing to do with what we had. She stared at the invitation like it was burning. My fiancé knows about you, I continued. She knows about our marriage, the divorce, your attempts to reconnect. She's not threatened by you because she understands something you never did. What's that? She choked out. That when someone chooses you every day, not just keeps you around until something better comes along, it creates a completely different kind of relationship. Security approached. They're going to escort you to your car, I said. If I see you again, hear from you again, or if you contact anyone in my life again, the next conversation will be with my lawyer and the police. She cried harder, clutching both papers. I know I made mistakes, she whispered, but this feels cruel. Cruel, I said gently, would be lying to you, leading you on, pretending that 3 years of rebuilding my life could be erased with an apology. This is honesty. I love you, she sobbed. I know you think you do, I said. But love isn't something you discover when you're desperate. Love is what you nurture when you have choices. Security guided her toward the exit. At the door, she looked back. Will you ever forgive me? I already have, I said. That's why I was able to move on completely. She left. I never saw her again. 6 months later, I married my fiancé in a small ceremony, surrounded by people who watched me rebuild my life from nothing. In my vows, I promised to choose her every day, not just when convenient. She promised the same. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living a life so full and so loved that the person who discarded you finally realizes they let go of something irreplaceable. Elena wanted a fresh start with no dead weight. I gave her exactly that, and built something better than anything we ever had. She got what she asked for. I got what I deserved. And for the first time, we were both truly free.